Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Disney Dining Show. I am your host, Pete Werner, joined at the table this week by my good friends Steve Porter,
Hello.
Denny Sunderly,
Hi there.
back on the controls, associate producer, Mr. Corey Fiasconaro.
Hey, guys.
And this week, we are going to do our review of Chefs de France at Epcot. Now, this was for a long time one of my favorite restaurants. I can't remember how long ago it was. I remember I was in Epcot by myself, which was unusual. This was years ago. And I just happened to go in and have lunch, and it was phenomenal. And I went back several times, was always going back. And then for some reason, I just stopped. I don't know why. It wasn't like I didn't have a bad experience. I didn't, it wasn't like, oh, the food, went downhill or anything like that. I just stopped. And then a few weeks ago, Sean had friends and family in town, and we went to Chefs de France for dinner. And we were a table of 8, I think, 7 or 8. And 201, everybody was like, this is phenomenal. And I'm like, God, I forgot how good this was. So I said, we need to come back and do a formal review of it. Now, we have made the decision, just so you know, I think this one will go up this Friday. We have made the decision to no longer do in-restaurant reviews. And the reason for that mainly is that especially when it's not a problem when we do counter service, so we'll probably do counter service like that in the parks. But when we're doing the table service reviews, we just draw too much unnecessary attention to ourselves. With we're obviously vlogging, and very quickly they realize that. So it just seems foolish to do that. The problem is that, sometimes there's a week or two between the time we have the meal and the time we can sit in the studio and do the review. So we're having to make sure we take copiously good notes on these so that we don't forget. And of course, as soon as I look at my notes, I remember everything because I have a memory of about 12 and a half minutes right now. So, all right. So we went for lunch. It was the 4 of us, but we were also joined by my brother Charlie and my nephew Carl, who were in town. My brother Charlie was not about to do anything on camera, nor was my nephew Carl. But I only mention that because, I want to, as we go through, I want to talk about some of their responses to the meal that we had. And I do want to say our server, Aurelian,
Yeah.
I'm probably not pronouncing that, Aurelian, was amazing. This guy was so good. And if he hadn't been, I would not mention his name because I don't like trying to get people in trouble. Now, I should also mention that I did this review just maybe 2 weeks after getting back from Paris. And I just want to say they absolutely nailed the vibe. They absolutely nailed the vibe. And if I didn't know I was in Epcot, I could have easily been convinced I was in Paris.
Wow.
Yeah. And if you complain about the tables being close together, I don't think this is the reason, but that's a very Paris experience. Right. You go into a restaurant in Paris and everybody's on top of each other. So one of the things they do the baguettes came to the table fresh out of the oven. I mean, to the point where we had to leave them. Mm-hmm. I had to not touch my baguette for about 5 minutes because it was so hot. But fresh, delicious, and this was, famously, I do not eat seafood Everybody kind of knows that if you've watched any number of dining shows. I am not a seafood guy. But one of my favorite things to eat in the world is the lobster bisque at Chefs de France.
You were convinced that it wasn't a seafood stock.
That
Right.
it was.
Right.
It must have been like, because I'm tasting like, and the last time I reviewed it, I don't think I was as I paid as much attention to things like that as I do now.
Yeah, you're just enjoying it.
But as I'm tasting it, I'm like, is this like done with a beef stock or something? And sure enough, they made it very clear that, because I asked,
Yes.
said no, it was a fish stock that was done. So I'm not saying there was no taste of fish, but
Very mild.
it was a mild taste that combined with the other flavors in there. There's a tomato, there's cream, obviously, when you're doing a bisque. Actually, it worked so well. It's a perfect, like, for like the fall. It's a perfect soup.
Comfort food.
It's a very much comfort food. $8.99 for this, and it was a decent sized portion of lobster bisque, and I thought that was not only a good deal but absolutely delicious. So if you're somebody who doesn't eat seafood and you're open to trying something new, I would highly recommend this. I have tried lobster bisque other places and not liked it. This is the only place consistently I've enjoyed the lobster bisque. Denny, what did you get for your appetizer?
So I had the Plateau de Fromage de France. So it's the cheese board. It's $14.99, and I love beyond love all things cheese board. So in the restaurants throughout property, I have tried the cheese boards. Yachtsman Steakhouse has the best one currently, but I looked last week and it looks like it might have been removed from the menu. So I'm a little aghast at that.
Wow.
But the Chefs de France cheese board was lovely. So included on that cheese board were camembert and Gruyere. And Gruyere is a personal favorite of mine. Goat, so fromage de chèvre, a blue cheese, and a Saint Paulin, or Saint Paulin, which is a very creamy, buttery cheese. The cheeses just really juxtaposed really nicely against each other. Just the blue cheese had a really deep veining to it. It was lovely and tart.
Love a good blue cheese.
Oh, goodness. So good.
Especially with honey.
Yeah. Oh, and see, that's what puts the Yachtsman Steakhouse cheese board above the others, is they do include honeycomb. There was no honeycomb on the Chefs de France one, but that was okay. They had a lovely raisin walnut bread. It featured regular raisins and golden raisins, and they also had some red grapes and some walnuts as well. So everything paired really nicely. The goat cheese was not too, sometimes it can be a little in your face, and this really wasn't. It was a lovely pairing.
Yeah, goat cheese is not something I normally would, and I didn't try any of yours, but normally goat cheese is something I would back away from.
Yes. The camembert was my personal favorite of what was on the board, but it was also a lovely presentation too. It was really artfully put together, so I liked it a lot.
Steve?
I got the prefix menu, so it was $39.99 for the whole thing. So I don't have individual price breakdowns like everyone else, but I'll just say that.
Well,
right
everything
off the
that's
top.
on the prefix is also on the regular menu, so
I don't know. I didn't take note
I'm looking
of,
at it, so
okay.
I can tell you as you go.
Okay, so I had the French onion soup. It was, first off, a very big portion. I didn't finish everything because it was such a big portion.
Also, that's also $8.99.
Okay. And I wanted to save some room because it was massive. But I had a thick layer of melted Gruyere cheese.
Gruyere.
I can't pronounce things.
That's all right.
It was melty, delicious, had a really strong flavor of that type of cheese. Hot, delicious, savory. Pretty standard for French onion soup, but really, really good quality.
I had tried that when I'd gone, a couple weeks ago. It's among the best French onion soups I've ever tasted.
Yeah, it was
I mean,
really good.
it was superb. And I think my brother got that as well. And he was like, this is really good French onion soup.
Yeah, I would have had the whole thing if it weren't for the fact that I knew other food was coming.
Sure.
And that was the only reason why I didn't
No, that
eat
was
everything.
massive.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have eaten.
In fact,
your
it would
entree.
be one of those things where if you just are looking for like a lighter meal not that there's tons of cool months in Orlando, but January, February, early March, and you wanted to pop in there for like a quick bite, that'd be like a really good like.
Yeah.
Well, and especially, just, I don't know, for me, once it gets to the fall, regardless of the temperature, I still
You
want,
force yourself to.
I want that stuff.
You
I
want chili. You want a soup.
Right,
You
exactly. It's just,
a
a
stew.
mindset, in spite of the fact that I think it was 90 degrees out that
Yeah.
particular day.
Fortunately, they blast the AC in most of the restaurants, so you're good. But
It's fall all the time.
yeah,
Inside.
so yeah, it was good.
And Fiasco, what about you?
So I got, let's see here. Let's
Okay.
see one more time.
Dearest to me.
Okay, just tell us what you got.
Okay, so-
because you butcher English. I don't want to hear what you're going to do to French.
That is French for a salad with bacon and croutons. And that's what I got. It seemed like pretty much the most basic thing you could really order on the appetizer menu. Also, for me personally, a lot of, and it's France, it's French dishes, but a lot of the things that you would pick on the appetizer menu did contain cheese or were heavily themed.
And
to
you are not a cheese guy.
And I'm not a cheese guy, so I picked the salad, and it was really good.
$8.99.
$8.99. Yep, $8.99, and the bacon was really crispy. The vegetables were so fresh to the point, I feel like they just picked it in a garden out back. Like it was so fresh. They must have come from the land or something. They were so good. And the only thing that I would like to mention, because this is something that I feel like really anybody could get behind, except the vinaigrette was very strong. It was very vinegary. It had a nice vinegar punch to it. Didn't bother me. I dig it. I like that kind of stuff. But just keep that in mind going into it. If you did order this,
Yeah, that would bother me.
It had a big punch.
Yeah, that a strong vinegar would definitely bother me. But I think all around, we thought, okay, appetizers,
Absolutely.
A number
A
one.
plus, yeah.
So for main course, I decided on the pork shank. And let me just get the description of how it is prepared. A braised Berkshire pork shank, Spetzel egg noodles, broccoli, $29.99. So it's a $30 dish. The portion was excellent. I mean, this was a nice size pork shank. And it was perfectly cooked. It just lacked seasoning. I always, before, and I'm a salt guy. I'm bad with salt. But for whatever reason, my blood pressure is perfect and my sodium levels are always perfect whenever I get my blood done. So my doctor says the only excuse then is that you have a sodium deficiency. So you're just kind of keeping your sodium level normal. I'll take it.
Yeah.
'Cause I love salt. But I always I eat before. My ex used to criticize me for that all the time. Taste your food before you add the salt to it.
Yes.
So I started doing that, and so especially when we do the reviews, I want to know how well it was seasoned. And it wasn't that it wasn't seasoned; it lacked it was kind of bland. It was just kind of bland, and I felt like, the quality of the pork was good, not great, for $30. So if I need to add seasoning to it, it was a good dish. I'm not going to say it was a great dish. This is not one I'm going to run back to get again. But by no means was it atrocious. It wasn't like, oh my God, what were they thinking? Some people prefer, like my mother, definitely prefers under-seasoned. Mm-hmm. So she would have loved it. So it really just comes down to your
Preferences.
your
Yeah.
preferences. For
Personal
me,
taste.
I want a little bit more of that seasoning in there. But like I said, it was perfectly cooked. It was delicious. I ate it. It wasn't like I sent it back or didn't eat it. But But for $30, I just felt that it probably should have been seasoned a little bit. I made a note here that it was very tender. I said the pasta bed has the gravy from the pork, because there was a gravy on the pork, and it just, again, was not helping with the flavor. I said pasta bed has the gravy from the pork and suffers the same fate. So it really just was kind of lackluster in terms of that seasoning. So that was mine.
Okay.
Denny, what'd you
So
get?
I had the vegetable lasagna, and so I know that when we're out doing our reviews, we're trying to try some of the plant-based options and also some of the vegetarian, so that viewers who are vegan or vegetarian know what options are out there, and so Chefs de France has 2 vegetarian items. There's a gratin, which is your macaroni. It's your really thick macaroni and cheese, and then there's the veggie lasagna. And so I went ahead and had that. Obviously not vegan, but it is vegetarian, and it was very lovingly prepared. It had on the inside more of a stew consistency. It has bell peppers and tomatoes and onions and eggplant, and all in a tomato sauce, and then with Gruyere melted over top, and just slices of tomato artfully placed on the outside. It was, again, a comfort food. It was really, this is something that you could really enjoy eating in the fall. I did not miss meat at all in this dish. And you might wonder, okay, so you went to a French restaurant and you ordered something that sounds Italian, but it struck me as more of a ratatouille dish, and ratatouille comes from the Provence region. And so there you go. It really did tie in for me. The pasta was very thin. It was just lovely. Now, you did note when you tried it that you wish it had more of a kick to it.
Yeah, well, what I found with it was the red sauce.
Yes.
I thought the red sauce was basic.
Okay.
It wasn't bad. I've had much, much, much worse. It wasn't out of a can. But it just wasn't, it's not a red sauce I would consider to be a good red sauce.
Okay.
It was serviceable to the dish.
Yeah.
But I thought it was very good, though. I think
Yes.
the bite that I had was excellent.
I enjoyed
and again, not exactly a vegetarian. And this seems to be an ongoing theme that we're having with the reviews we're doing, the experiences we're having with the vegetarian and plant-based options. They are hitting it out of the park with this
They
stuff.
really are. They're putting a lot of effort into it, and
And
it's
it
really
shows.
shining.
I think so much so that a lot of guests that wouldn't normally assume that that's the type of dish they would go for should really consider it, because they're oftentimes better than the headlining
Yep.
entree option. So
I mean, you made this reference when we were doing the Coral Reef review, Steve. You said maybe after eating the dishes that you chose that day, you wouldn't want to necessarily go get on Mission Space, okay? Because your stomach's not going to feel so good.
yeah, I had like mac
after
and cheese and so many heavy dishes, and I
See,
was like, I couldn't
yeah.
go on any thrill rides right now.
This was completely light. This was a lovely dish. I didn't feel like I had, overeaten at all, and it was $19.99.
Wow.
So you can roll into this beautiful French brasserie and eat under those amber lights and eat something very satisfying, and it's $20.
Yeah.
So it rated pretty high with me.
I
Steve?
had the salmon dish. I'm not going to try to pronounce how to say it in French, but it was a salmon dish on a bed of cauliflower and potato puree, and then with herb sauce like kind of drizzled on top. The herb sauce really gave it a great flavor. The salmon was salmon. It was nothing spectacular, nothing bad. It was kind of right down the middle, kind of what you'd expect out of just average salmon, but really that herb sauce did kind of give it a boost of flavor, which was nice. I will say I was disappointed pretty greatly with the cauliflower potato puree. It got so cold so fast. I mean, the first bite I had was warm, but by the time I had a bite of salmon and then went back to the puree, it was colder than the plate that it was on. So I really only had a couple bites of that puree because I'm not into eating what is cold food.
on the a la carte menu, that salmon dish is $29.99, so the same price as my pork.
Okay, I mean then that's pretty expensive for. I mean, not that it was a bad dish.
How was the salmon though?
The salmon was like I said, it was average. It was good. It wasn't great. It was it tasted fresh, but it wasn't anything like wow. This is what a spectacular cut of fish I'm having right now. It was fine. Again, the herb sauce kind of saved everything because it gave the salmon flavor, and you could kind of put aside the puree that was really not very good because I'm not into eating cold mush. That's not my deal.
That doesn't sound good.
So yeah, I mean, it was the salmon and the sauce good, the puree bad.
Okay.
For $30, I would not have been super thrilled though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fiasco.
All right, so there are generally two types of entrees I get really excited to try. Plant-based are one of them. And if we're not doing a plant-based day, fillets. Love trying fillets, and I've tried many of them, and that's what I got here today. Also was excited to try this fillet because the one other time I came to Chefs de France, what I got was a steak. I'm not sure exactly what steak they were offering when I was there a year ago, but I didn't like it then. So I was excited to try this fillet. It was $35.99.
It is the most expensive item on the menu.
It is the most expensive item on the menu, but as far as a fillet is concerned, I think that's relatively low. It's pretty fair. I'll get to that, but
I believe it was a 6-ounce fillet.
yes, it was a 6-ounce fillet, and it came with potatoes au gratin and green beans. The green beans were a little bit buttery, which I'm not a personal fan of buttery things because
I love butter.
and I understand
vegetables.
You lost me.
Anything buttery.
I am the minority there.
Smother my vegetables in lard.
Yeah, and see, I know I'm the minority there, but again, just a thing to keep in mind if you're not a huge fan of butter. They were buttery green beans, and the potatoes. I did try a bite, but again, I'm not the best judgment on cheesy potatoes. Pete, you tried a bite too, and I think you said you really liked those. But let's get to the fillet because that's the
Star of the show.
prize here. For $35.99, this fillet just blew my expectations away. I was coming to and so I came to Chefs de France once. I wasn't a fan of it, and Haley really was because she got the right things that you would get at a French restaurant, like the French onion soup and all that good jazz. And she's like, oh, she loved it so much. So every time we're out in California, she sends me pics of, oh, look where I am at Chefs de France. So she's excited now that I came here this time and really liked my filet, but I really did. And not to get off on a tangent too much, but I do try fillets on off-property places all the time, and I just consistently find that Disney, I don't know, and I'm sure somebody could take me to a awesome steakhouse and show me, see, this is how a fillet is supposed to be, but I've just never had a better fillet than on Disney property, like Steakhouse 55 in Disneyland, Chico, and Disney World, and then for $36, this fillet is probably the best fillet I had with a 3 in front of it. So, I mean... And it was in a peppercorn sauce that was, it added a nice little touch of seasoning, but it was very mild. It wasn't a overpowering flavor at all.
Okay. So for dessert, I just got the trio of sorbets. Passion fruit, raspberry, and strawberry sorbets with a Madeleine cookie or biscuit. That's kind of common with any French dessert. They always have them with them, and the sorbets were very good, but it's sorbet, so I haven't really experienced a lot of bad sorbets. But these were very full flavored and very good. Of course, the best thing you can get in France dessert wise is the soft serve from that cart right across from the restaurant. But this was very good. And
I think all the desserts are $9.75.
Okay, because I didn't take the copy of the dessert menu, so $9.75. Yeah, okay, it was good. It was good.
Did they taste fresh? Was it a fresh sorbet?
I wouldn't say it was fresh,
Okay.
but it was good. I mean, it was
Okay.
very flavorful. The flavor didn't come from okay, we're going to take mangoes and we're going to
Okay.
make this sorbet, if
Squish
that's
them
what you're
up.
asking. No.
Okay.
No, it was pre-processed, I believe. But I could be wrong on that, but
Okay.
it was still good.
Good. I had the meringue au fruits rouge. So red fruit meringue is what I had. It had a vanilla cream inside. The meringue was light and airy and crisp. Everything you want a meringue to be, that you expect it to be. The vanilla cream was inside. It was the meringue was done in a nest shape. So it just aesthetically very, very pleasing. The vanilla cream had a nice taste to it. It had blueberries and blackberries and raspberries and strawberries on it, which they just paired up very, very nicely. Again, it was $9.75. The taste was very bright. It was nice. Again, a nice light option if you want to go out and just see the park afterward. You're gonna leave there feeling really good. So it was nice.
Steve?
I had the apple tart. Oh, my phone with my notes just closed. There we go. It was apple slices basically baked into a sweet croissant with a scoop of almond ice cream on the side. I thought it was delicious. The flavor was amazing. I love like apple desserts like that. It reminds me of fall time anyways. But the only slight thing that I didn't love about it was that the croissant was kind of tough, which you think of croissants being like flaky and, you can kind of, slice them with a fork. But this was like, I kind of had to like...
I don't think you really could slice a croissant with a fork. I think you'd need a knife.
Well, I guess, I don't know.
Because they're kind of a pulley.
Yeah, I guess they're a little pulley, but it was like, I really had to like really pull on it.
Okay.
And then the apple slices kind of were a mess after you did that. But once you got it all, you shoveled it into your face. It was great. And then the almond ice cream was a good complement to that. It was kind of added a creaminess to it, and so overall, I thought that was actually one of my favorite parts of the meal. Besides that, just the toughness of the croissant was my favorite.
Just from an outsider's point of view, as I looked over at your dessert, it was very artistically done. It was a lot of care.
Yeah,
Again,
nice
a lot of love
presentation.
had been put into this.
Yeah.
Because every thinly sliced apple was just painstakingly placed where it was.
Yeah, it wasn't just like apple slices
No.
thrown into some
lovely.
bread. It was definitely laid out.
Well, I think one of the themes that I noticed with this restaurant is that there is a great deal of attention, not just to the presentation, but to the food itself, which I really appreciate. And I like that you use the word lovingly. I don't know if that's the word I would use. I would say well done. But your point is well taken. It is... there's a lot of care that's put into
It
it.
shows
They're
that the
not
cast-
slinging hash.
It shows that the cast member that's preparing this takes some pride in what
Absolutely.
they're doing.
As does, this is one of the things I liked about our server. He did too.
Yes.
Yeah.
He did
It's
too.
magnificent.
Took a lot of pride in it. There was that sense, and this is what I think is great about the international program, is that bringing these folks from the countries that they represent really just adds that they bring pride, and they're proud of their culture. They're proud, in this case, of their food, and they want to put the best spin on it, or the best effort into it. And I think this restaurant is one of the ones that does that really well.
Mm-hmm. I also want to add, because it was something that both Fiasco and I ordered, was we had, and this was from your wife's suggestion.
That's right.
It was like a lemon soda, which I highly, highly recommend. It was another really great part of the meal, actually, and it was really light, not too sugary, and that. Sometimes with sodas, you get that like syrupy taste in your mouth. This was just like a lemonade with bubbles in it, and
Yeah.
it was awesome.
Yep.
Okay, Fiasco, what about you?
Yeah, so I got the chocolate tart, and from the looks of it, looking at Disney's menu right now, either they haven't put it on that menu yet, or it just got taken off. And let's hope it's not the latter, because this chocolate tart is, well, let me read you the description. Chocolate tart with chocolate mousse, chocolate sauce, and vanilla ice cream. If you know me, and you know the kind of desserts that I like, the description kind of says it all. $9.75. I take a scoop of cold vanilla ice cream with a scoop of some sort of warm chocolate-esque substance, and it's game over. Might be a biased opinion because I don't think I've ever taken a bite of something like that I disliked. But, it is still possible. And yeah, I love this. It was really good. So let's hope it's still on the menu. But looking at the website, it's not right now. But it was $9.75.
And I don't have the grand total, but they take Tables in Wonderland for lunch. They do not take it at dinner. So that tells me that they do really, really well at dinner. They don't need it. And I find the pace at lunch, the restaurant was not full by any means. And what time was our lunch? It was like 1 o'clock, right?
It's one, yeah.
So it was, perfect lunchtime. Restaurant was not crazy. I really recommend, even if you want to make this your big meal for the day,
Yes.
do it. Do it there and do it in the afternoon.
I really wonder if the Epcot restaurants, like the sit-down restaurants during the festivals, during these lunchtimes, if that's why they're so
If they
dead.
suffer.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. I'm sure the restaurants suffer in general because you got a lot of, especially at Food and Wine, especially because you've got people really wanting to try those. But I don't imagine it's devastating either because the restaurants are always pretty active. All right, scale of 1 to 10, Fiasco. What do you give it?
I'm going to give it an 8.5. If you asked me this when I went a year ago, it would have been a fairly low rating. But this experience, everything I got was really, really good. And for the price per value, I mean, I'd even tilt her closer to a 9, honestly, from just my experience alone and what I got alone.
Steve?
I think I may have been. I liked everything; it was good. But I think I may have been on the lower end of this group. I'm going to give it an 8.
An 8. Denny?
I say a 9 from Aurelian, our server, to just every single, the pacing of the meal. We were not rushed
Not at all.
It was, it just was a lovely quality. And that space, the physical space, has a mystique, just a little bit of a
Agreed.
magic to it. So it's a 9.
Yeah, I've been back and forth between 8.5 and 9, but I think I'm going to give it a 9. I felt like I had an experience, which is, for the price point that we're talking, because we're talking about, for these meals, you're going to talk about $40 or $50 per person. So the food's got to be good, the service has got to be good, but the atmosphere has to be there as well. And I felt that this hit that on all 3 counts. That atmosphere, like I said, I was just 2 weeks out of Paris, and I felt it. I could feel it. Our server, Aurelian, was superb. And the food, while not perfect in every regard, was very good. And when you couple that with a 20% discount with Tables in Wonderland, I'm in. I will absolutely go back here. And I'd have to have more experiences there before I could say Chefs de France goes on my top 5 list. But it's a contender. It's an absolute contender. So there you have it. That's our review of Chefs de France at Epcot. And that will do it for this episode of the Disney Dining Show. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you again next week.